Hey, good morning, everybody. I know I'm still futzing around with everything here. Appreciate you being here today. Welcome. Yeah, here's a little cheers right here. Make sure you're here tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern time for Crypto on the Rocks. It'll be a different type of cheers, but we'll do coffee this morning. How's everybody doing today? Good, I hope. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about the latest Trump effect tweet on the BRICS nations. And I was trying to get Daniel Diaz. You guys have seen him on this channel many times, executive director for Citizens for Sound Money, to come on and go back and forth with me about a lot of this. But unfortunately, he's busy lobbying today. So we're going to bring him vicariously through a couple of interviews that we've done. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, so that's what's going on. Let's see who is in the chat. Appreciate everybody being here. Matter of fact, don't forget, if you're new, hit that subscribe button, tick that bell icon, click the all, and that way you get notified every time I'm live and or drop a great video. And don't forget, smash up that like button. I can see I got some people on Facebook, and so hit it. Appreciate that. All right, let's see who's in the chat here. Hey, Automatic Beats in the house. As always, the man is dedicated, always here. Appreciate you, my friend. All right, before we kind of get into all of that, let's take a quick look at the markets because, you know what? Why not? Let's see what's going on. So, Bitcoin, 101,436. I don't know. It gets difficult for me to say that now that we're over that six-figure mark, but basically hovering in that 101K range. So pretty good. It was down below yesterday, and you know, back up today. Listen, I also put a poll in on YouTube, so go ahead and try and put some votes in on that poll. I'd appreciate that. I'm also trying that feature. I'm trying to get that squared away for like Friday night, so you guys can actually help me figure out what we're going to dollar cost average into using the poll. But anyway, that's another story. Let's keep going here. Ethereum tickling that 4K mark. It was above that for a while, and then down back below 39.67. Let's see. XRP has $2.42. You know, up overall here, and 2.3% for the week. Solana down overall for the week by 3.5%, but up almost 2% in the last 24 hours. So that's not a bad thing. And yes, I had to come back and make sure I got this sold to the moon. Yes, Automatic Beats. I look forward to that every time. All right, let's keep going here. I'm going to zip through this kind of quick because again, I've got a lot of stuff to get through today, and I don't want to be here too long. Look at this, BNB 716.28, crazy. I love it. Doge down 8.3% on the week, 41 cents. Cardano 114. That was down down 6.1% on the week. It was actually excuse me, it was actually below $1 there for a while, and then by the time I went in the Matrix Money podcast on Tuesday, boom, it was back up there. Tron looking pretty good here at 30 cents, even though it's down almost 11.5% for the week. AVAX, look at this, 52.27, looking mighty good, up 10% in the last 24 hours. A lot of alts kind of popping today for whatever reason. Chainlink, love Chainlink, up 15% over the last 7 days, 28.15. You know, I've said for a while, anything below $20 on Chainlink is a good buy. I don't know. Is it going to keep going up? I don't know. If there's a dip on Chainlink, maybe it's time to DCA. Again, not financial advice, not a financial advisor, old guy interwebs. Let's see here. Let's keep going. Sui, we got a lot of people trying to get into Sui and trying to profit on that. Look at this. Up almost 12% in the last 7 days. Up, oh my God, 21.5% in the last 24 hours, $4.70. Crazy. I don't have any of that. Let's see. Stellar, 43 cents, even though it's down 11.5% over the last week. H bar down 1.3% over the last week at 29.5 cents. Uniswap looking pretty strong, up over 17%, $18.35. BCH looking pretty good, 552, even though it's down almost 12%. Pepe looking pretty strong, up almost 12%. Litecoin, I like Litecoin for what it's meant to be used for. Use it to buy shit, save your Bitcoin. And down 14.5%. Just double checking. Okay. Let's see, where are we at here? Let's keep going. ICP looking pretty strong, even though down 7%, 1363. Ave, look at Ave, up 44% in the last week, 376.54, 29.8, almost 30% of that today in the last 24 hours. Absolutely crazy. I like Ave. Haven't used them in a while, but I like them. Let's see, the CRO token for those who are using crypto.com, down 11.5%, 18 cents. Render down almost 3%. Look at that though, $9.84. Holy moly. Let's see, anything else? Arbitrum down 5%. $1.08. Caspa, we got to stop there, up 6% in the overall for the week at 16.9 cents, so almost 17 cents. I don't know, it's been having a hard time kind of staying up there. Filecoin, another one I think is going to do amazing in this bull cycle here, down 13% right now, $6.87. Algo, I like Algo, down 6.5%, 44 cents. And we're going to round it off right here with Monero because, again, I like privacy coins. I think they're going to be a huge necessity here in the space. And look at Monero, 197.22. They thought they were killing Monero by pulling it off all these centralized exchanges. And all they did was make it stronger, in my humble opinion. So, again, double barrel middle fingers to everybody who tried to squash Monero. Anyway, all right. So what are we going to talk about today? Today, we're going to talk about the latest tweet from Donald Trump. Wow, I can't talk today. Basically threatening the BRICS coalition to 100% tariffs if they decide they're going to create their own currency. And in order to kind of break this all down, we're going to take sections of a Mark Moss video. Again, link to everything I'm going to show you today in the description of the stream. So go ahead and check that out. We're going to take some sections and let him kind of lay it out. And I'll give you my 2 cents and my thought process. I'm going to, just to give it to you initially, I don't think that the tact he's taking by threatening tariffs. Now, excuse me. Trump has threatened a lot of people with tariffs over since he won the election in November. And okay, some of it I agree with, because we've got other countries who put tariffs on our goods, and we don't put any tariffs on their goods coming into our country. That just seems stupid to me. So I'm all about that. I see the, level the playing field, if you would. I see that. But in this case, I think that, he's basically doubling down on the reason by showing the reason why BRICS was formed in the first place. This coalition was put together because, these countries feel like the US weaponizes the dollar and the SWIFT system, which, let's be honest, we do. Done a number of live streams and videos about this, links in the description. Go ahead, check them out. But you can't, okay. I don't see the incentive for these people, these BRICS nations, this coalition, to continue to use the US dollar or in any way, shape, or form by threatening them with the same system they want to escape because you weaponize it. It just, I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. Tell me in the chat. Tell me in the comments if you're watching this later. But yeah, just, I'm sorry, don't make sense to me. Don't make sense to me. So the tweet in particular, and Mark Moss is going to break it down when we're watching that. But here's the actual tweet. Whoops, wait a minute. Something's not right here. Okay, wrong one. That's why. Here we go. Here's the actual tweet, and you can go ahead and check, again, link in the description. Check that out for yourself. But basically here in this tweet, he's saying that BRICS countries are trying to move away from the dollar while we stand by and watch is over. I mean, okay, I get that. I get you should try to do something. And then he goes on to say, basically, if they try, they try to create a currency, they will face 100% tariffs. Again, carrot and stick kind of thing. And he's using a lot of the stick and not a lot of the carrot. All right, let's wow. We're gonna bring up Mark Moss here. Hopefully I can get the correct one here. Yes. And we're gonna let him do some talking. This first part where he explains pretty much what I've done, Trump's threat, is about a minute and a half long. So we'll let that go.
All right, let's just jump right in and let's talk about what just happened. The warning shot that went around the world. I'm talking about President-elect Trump. He's not even in office yet, but he's already making big moves.
Trump
and
effect,
he's
baby.
Making global threats. Now, he made a warning to the BRICS nations right here. Let me pull it up so you can see exactly what this tweet means. And then, of course, we'll break it all down and tell you what it means to you and what we should be doing about this. Okay, the idea that the BRICS countries, of course, I've talked a lot about the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. A lot of other nations have jumped in. I've done a bunch of videos on this. They're starting their own currency, getting out of the US dollar, etc. The BRICS countries are trying to move away from the dollar while we stand by and watch. It's over, he says. Hey, these days are over. They're not gonna. They're not doing it on our watch. Not while we watch. It says we require commitment. Neither should they create a new BRICS currency, nor back any other currency to replace the mighty US dollar, or they will face 100% tariffs. So that's the threat. Hey, if you stop using the dollar or go to any other currency, we're going to slap 100% tariffs on you. And they can also say goodbye to selling into the wonderful US. It's just kind of weird. So how do you put 100% tariffs on if they can't sell into the US?
In the US.
Anyway,
I know, that's
I'm not
kind
going
of
to get
funny.
into that. But that is basically it. He says they can go find another sucker. There's no chance that the BRICS will replace the US dollar in international trade. And any country that tries should wave goodbye to America. So he's basically saying, if you don't use the US dollar, then you can kiss the American markets goodbye. I put a tweet that went pretty viral. I said, tell me you don't understand incentives and game theory without saying it. A lot of people didn't like that, told me to stay in my lane, which I don't know what my lane is. I thought this was my lane.
I love that part. I thought this was my lane. I mean, but does that not make sense? Does it not make sense? Again, to me, I think that the idea of rattling your saber to people who are trying to escape from you rattling your saber is just like completely the wrong tact to take. And again, I've done a number of live streams about it. Links in the description. Please go ahead and check that out. And don't forget, if you're just coming in, I can see we got a bunch of people coming in. If you're on YouTube, I just put a poll up to ask you if you think that this is going to be effective. Go ahead and answer that. We'll take a look at that at the very end. And all right, let's get on to the next section where we talk about de-dollarization. Now, that again, something I've talked about a number of times, that, you know, lots of countries around the globe are trying to de-dollarize. So basically get away from the US dollar. And it's not something that the US government doesn't know about. There was entire reports, and he's going to point one of them out with regard to that. So again, if you're trying to stabilize the US dollar, weaponizing it isn't the way to do it. My humble opinion. Simple man. I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy. Maybe I just be crazy. But you tell me. Let's bring this next section up. Again, he talks about de-dollarization. It's about 2 minutes long, but it's important information because you need to understand exactly what de-dollarization is. So I'm going to let him explain it, and then we'll jump back in, and I'll give you my 2
First
cents.
nations to do this. As a matter of fact, both China and Russia have been de-dollarizing since 2013. So over a decade, they've actively been doing this. This is from the U.S. Congressional Research Service. This is from 2021. This came out, and it talks about for more than a decade, in 2021, more than a decade, China and Russia have sought to reduce their use of the US dollar or to de-dollarize. So the whole world's been doing this. China and Russia, two of the largest countries in the world, have been doing this now for over a decade, since 2021. And of course, Russia got completely de-dollarized when they got kicked out of the global financial system. So this is not a new thing. And what we can see here from this chart right here is you can actually see how this has been playing out.
Pay attention to this chart.
For example, going back to 2013, the date that I gave you, you can see in red, the Russian ruble has gone up a little bit. The green here is the US dollar. So while the US dollar was 100%, roughly back in 2013, about 98%, you can see how quickly it started to fall off of a cliff right here. Today, we are just at about 30%. Meanwhile, the euro picked up a big chunk, and then others right there. So the world is de-dollarizing, whether Trump wants it to or not. And here's the key takeaway.
Exactly.
The government doesn't tell us what money we want to use. I can
Listen
pay
to
you
this
in
point.
dollars. I can pay you in euro, yen. I can pay you with my iPhone. I can pay you with my labor. You and I decide what we want to trade. Now, as you can see, this is changing rapidly. Now, this all fits into my 3 cycles thesis of the...
Okay. And then he goes in, he's doing a live stream talking about a lot of this stuff in more macro scale. Again, link if you want to watch the entire video, link is in the description. Go ahead and do that. But to the point that, again, these countries have been doing this. And again, I talked about it a number of times on live streams. It's happening whether Trump wants it to or not. So why would you threaten people to make it happen theoretically quicker? I just, it makes no sense to me. Dave P is in the house. Welcome, sir. Good morning. Appreciate you being here as always. Hopefully you took part in that poll on the way in to the stream here. And we'll go over that at the very end. So yeah, it just doesn't, I don't know. The US, or in this case, Trump, trying to tell people what they can use for currency just flies in the face of everything that we here in the cryptocurrency space should be advocating for, right? The idea of freedom money. And at the end, we're going to take a look at a quick clip from Jöel Valenzuela, where he talks about learning how to use that now. Was something from the Retail Roundtable, and we'll show you the clips. Links are in the description. But the point is, if we wanted to use, like he said, labor, if you gave me something and I wanted to pay you by doing some work for you, well, that's not the government's business. End of story. If I want to pay you in some kind of cryptocurrency, so be it. Not the government's business. I want to pay you in whatever fiat currency you want, so be it. So be it. We should be able to pay wherever and however we want to do so. All right. This next section, he kind of lays out the actual plan for the BRICS, because even in my previous videos, it was more about gold-backed currency. That was kind of the thing. But now when he lays this out, it makes much more sense from things we're hearing from the BRICS in these various meetings, where they're basically going to use their own currency and then use their own banking system to do the settlement. So I'm going to, and he's going to talk about Project Embridge. So let's, again, let Mark kind of get into this. Let's hope I got this looks like the right clip, and let him do the talking here, and I'll jump in with my proverbial 2 cents.
who wants to be the most dominant. And so there's a lot of challenges that are here. Now we can see that some of the things that they want to do, the reasons why they're trying to do this is, again, if they can coordinate their economic policy, then hopefully what they could do is they could reduce the reliance on the US dollar, right? Again, this is what Trump is warning from. The BRICS leaders have long advocated for de-dollarization, but again, it's not just the BRICS. China and Russia have been doing this for a long time.
Exactly.
It's what happens when the US continues to weaponize the dollar over and over. Now, the thing is, though,
okay, and I want to pause that for a second, because to the point of Russia and China doing this for a long time, we just saw, matter of fact, the link in the description to an article I posted on my website, cryptocoinmindset.com. Head on over there, where I show you that the recent the Russian government, one of the ministers in the Russian government, put forward a proposal to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Now we're going to have basically Russia and the US, well, assuming Trump keeps his plans for us to have a strategic Bitcoin reserve, in a kind of Bitcoin arms race. Who's going to stack the most, who's going to stack it the quickest, that kind of thing. And make no mistake, I mean, because I'm focusing on Russia here, because that was the latest news to come out, and Mark just mentioned it here in this video. But all these other countries, even just if you highlight just the G20, are going to have to jump in, or they're going to get left behind. Again, talked about Bitcoin FOMO, Nation Bitcoin FOMO, on a Crypto Market Monday with Joe. We do that every Monday, 10 a.m. Check that out. But anyway, I'm going to let Mark kind of finish this off on this clip, and then we'll go from there. Sorry, I just had to put my 2 cents in on that.
Because it's not what most people think. You see, what most people have been talking about for a long time, I've made videos talking about this, is that the BRICS want to launch their own currency. And that's what Trump was saying. If they launch their own currency,
right?
That's not what the BRICS are doing. The BRICS are doing something much more different. What? Well, they want to create an alternative financial system. So they're not trying to create a new currency. They're trying to create an entire new financial system. Now, what they've created is this new development bank, or NDB, and a contingent reserve arrangement, the CRA. And basically what they want to do is they want to replace the World Bank and the IMF. So the NDB mimics the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. And they hope that alternative lending would reduce dependence on traditional funding sources, again, the IMF and the World Bank. They want to reduce that. Why? Well, we'll get to why when we talk about the difference of what this alternative system can do. But ultimately, it's intended to offer more flexibility, greater equality among shareholders, and easier access to funds than the World Bank. You see, when the World Bank and the IMF give out loans, those loans come with strings. You
Yes.
do what we want, do what we say, or you don't get any money. Like, for example, shut down your entire energy sector. For example, don't grow your own food. And that's obviously bad for the nation. Why would we want to have no energy? We don't want to live in the dark ages, but if we want the money, we have to do that.
Okay, so you get the point of what he's trying to make there. And we saw this. It was something I highlighted when El Salvador first put Bitcoin as legal tender years ago now. And they got threatened by the IMF, because guess what? That will provide, and we've seen how that has helped El Salvador to become not dependent on IMF loans in order to run the country and survive. As a matter of fact, it's basically at this point made them financially independent with just the appreciated value of Bitcoin. They could pay off their IMF loans. I did a video about, or live stream about that, as a matter of fact. And guess what? Right off the IMF completely, because the IMF pulling the purse strings is how they attempt to influence countries in their policies, in their, well, whatever. Because as he mentioned here, shut down your entire energy sector. Well, what the hell? No, we do what we need to do. Anyway, the IMF at the end of the day is the old break your arm kind of system that needs to go away. All right. Now, in this next clip, he talks about Project Embridge. And I apologize. I thought I got ahead of myself there. But we're going to let him talk about that because it's important to understand. This is basically what he was trying to highlight just a moment ago.
Embridge, which is a project that the BIS, Bank of International Settlements, has worked on with many countries. Now, this is dated November of 2024. Project Embridge reached the minimum viable product stage in mid-2024. That means it now works. They can now use it, the minimum viable product. The CBDC platform shared among participants, participating central banks and commercial banks.
Okay, you caught that. He said it kind of quick. CBDC platform. Now, again, according to these various agencies who are running this, it's meant to be a not retail CBDC, kind of wholesale thing, banks to banks, that kind of scenario. But you know, slippery slope kind of thing. All right, I'll let him finish this off.
Extensive collaboration started in 2021 between the BIS, the Bank of International Settlements, it's the central bank of all central banks, the Bank of Thailand, Central Bank of the United Arab Emirates, UAE, we'll come back to that, the People's Bank of China, of course, Hong Kong Monetary Authority, and the Saudi Central Bank. We'll come back to that as well. It also addressed financial inclusion concerns. Now, they don't want to just create a duplicate system. They need to create a new alternative system, and it's not about creating their own currency, it's about creating a new system to move money around.
Right.
Now, again, while this sounds promising.
All right. Now, listen, this new system is how they're going to be able to interact with each other by using their own fiat currencies, their own country's currencies, and utilizing this system to be able to settle between them. And I'm not sure if he points out in the next section or where, if at all, in any of these clips, but basically the BRICS, though they don't have the majority of the GDP globally, I think they only have something like, I don't know, I want to say 4%, but I don't think that's the accurate number. So go watch his entire video because he does give you the accurate number. But they do have like half the global population. So that is like a major thing to consider. You know, I get it. A lot of these countries are smaller countries. They're not necessarily, you know, first world countries, that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, they're developing countries. They've got economic power to put into the engine soon, if not already. So that's something that needs to be considered. Now, I've talked about weaponizing this, the SWIFT system and the US dollar against countries. For example, he pointed out in one of the previous clips we just watched, Russia being completely debanked because of the invasion into Ukraine. Well, it's not just that way, by utilizing and pulling people off the SWIFT system, that the US weaponizes the dollar. We're going to show, or I'm going to let him talk in a clip that's about 2 minutes long, where he talks about Seniorage, which basically allows the US government to export its inflation across the globe, something I've talked about a number of times. So you definitely want to understand what Seniorage is in order to see how else the US weaponizes the dollar. Trade intuition in the house. Appreciate you being here, my friend. As always, FF in the house. Nice. Awesome. Appreciate you stopping in. I know you're busy during the day, brother. Appreciate that. All right. So let me bring up this next clip. And again, I know it's not necessarily the most interesting topic per se, but it is interesting for people, for all of us to understand in order to, I think it plays to my point that these 100% tariffs are not the way to go. Not the way to go. Hey, C90, welcome. Appreciate you. Thanks for being here. All right, we're going to let him go. Like I said, this clip's about 2 minutes long. I may
is
interrupt
if they
them.
decrease demand for US dollar, they reduce the US leverage, right? So if they're not using the US dollar, the US dollar can't be weaponized against them. And not just weaponized against them like sanctions, but more importantly, it's this, the seniorage. It was a Chinese Chinese official that said about a year ago, I put in a video where he said that the US is able to print a $100 bill for like 17 cents and send it to another country and extract $100 worth of goods for 17 cents. That's what seniorage is. So it's unequal distribution of benefits.
That's crazy, right? So think about that. I mean, even if, 17 cents isn't accurate to print a $100 bill, I mean, I'm sure it's not that much, but, or it may not be that much more, I mean. But then we go send that money to wherever and get $100 worth of goods and services from people or these other countries. Holy crap. There goes the inflation outside of our borders. That's the point I'm trying to get at. All right. Well, I'm going to let him finish here because I'm sure he explains it much better than me.
Because whoever prints the money gets the unequal distribution.
Exactly.
It creates inflation for the rest of the world. So the US exports that inflation. It creates economic distortions. And so that is what these nations are trying to get out of. But again, it's not about creating their own currency. So if it's not about creating their own currency, what are they really trying to do? Well, it's a new strategy, right? It's not about creating a new currency. It's about creating a new strategy altogether.
Right.
So you can see Western sanctions, the US dollar status, the global reserve currency are part of the story. Washington's immense influence over the global financial system. So they want to get out of that, but they want to do this not by creating their own currency. They want to do this by each country having their own national currency and then being able to just use their own currencies and trade between them. So instead of trying to figure out which currency they use, they'll each get to use their own, and they'll use Project Embridge, the new CBD system, to trade their own currencies. That's the way.
So that makes sense, right? So basically, they've created a new system to mimic the current SWIFT system. They'll be able to utilize their own currencies, their own national currencies, to then create commerce and trade and so on between each other. And the settlement layer will be the CBDC layer, okay, central bank digital currency layer that they've created with Project Embridge. I'm going to let him wrap. He's got a little bit more here, and then we'll move on to the last piece.
The way they want to do it. And what really you have China, which is the largest player, obviously, in the BRICS, with a massive share of global GDP. But what China's doing is different than what the US is doing. What China's doing is saying, hey, we're the biggest, we have the biggest GDP, but we're not going to tell you what to do. We're going to give everybody equal say and equal rights because we're not going to make you use the Chinese yuan. Everyone can just use their own currency. And we'll just settle through Project Embridge. So the China has taken a much different approach. While Trump is trying to threaten them, what China does is cooperation. Let's all just work together as opposed to competing competition. And even more importantly, going back to the NDB, it's sort of like the IMF. The difference is, again, the IMF comes with all these political strings, whereas the NDB are loans with no politics. And so that's really what the BRICS are doing. They're not trying to create a new currency. They're trying to create a new system where they can all have their own say, where nobody has an advantage, where they can get loans without political strings, and they don't have to worry about countries imposing seniorage on them and shipping inflation to them. And that.
Okay, and so there it is in a nutshell, very nicely put together by Mark Moss. And again, link to the entire video down below. There's one other section that we're going to watch to prep for where I'd like to end off here, where we bring in, like I said, Daniel Diaz couldn't be here today. He's lobbying, so hopefully his lobbying efforts go well. Basically lobbying, I believe in Florida, trying to get the state legislature to put in gold and silver, if I remember correctly from what I read, as legal tender in that state. So good luck. I hope he's able to do that. I think there's going to be more moves for that kind of thing across the United States, never mind anything else, because, this this exploitation of pulling value out doesn't just happen to these countries through seniorage. It happens to us through inflation. These, it kills me, and I've mentioned it a number of times on some live streams. Again, links to those live streams in the description of this one, where, I've got people, friends of mine, smart people, who are all about, all of a sudden, Kroger is price gouging. No. What is wrong with you? No, that's not what's happening. That's not what's happening. Anyway, before I don't want to get down that road because what did he say? Automatic B says, yeah, probably not. Well, again, the part that I'm bringing up is the wealth cycling piece. He does wealth cycle, but he did put it back into Bitcoin, I think, for a while, cycled back up, pulled it out recently, and back into gold. And hey, whatever works. Everybody's got to do what they want to do. Again, it's here you go, not financial advice, not a financial advisor. Hell, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but I want to give you options that I think would be helpful as we move into this what's coming here in 2025 once Trump does take office. Because again, I get the hard line. I think with a lot of what he's got planned and what he's doing, the hard line is probably the right line. But in this particular case, I'm thinking that is not accurate at all. And again, when you came in, I put a poll. Check that poll. Go ahead, put your vote in there. I appreciate that. And I'm going to bring this up. We'll take this last section here. It's about a minute and a half long, and then we'll jump into some options.
Prices and economic stability throughout the world. So as other nations are moving away from U.S. treasuries and being afraid they'll be weaponized against them and moving reserves to other assets like gold, it changes the power of balance and the stability. Now, we can see that one of the ways we're seeing this as we can see, like Bitcoin has broke $93,000 amid rumors that Saudi Arabia, the UAE, or Qatar are buying. And so now we're seeing these BRICS.
And let's be honest, we know that these major entities are already buying. We know that they're mining. I mean, again, done live streams all about it. The FOMO from nation states is real. And again, the link to the article I did about Russia looking to do a strategic Bitcoin reserve is only going to fuel that FOMO. So anyway, sorry, I'm interrupting Mark, but got to give you my 2 cents.
These are nations, Saudi, UAE, I told you, they're part of Project Embridge. And now they're moving into global commodities that people can't control, like gold and like Bitcoin. We can also see countries like Russia, who have been de-dollarizing for over a decade, and now, like I said, kicked out of the system. Russia's digital assets challenge Western sanctions. So this is a newly legalized cryptocurrency sector.
That's
marks
what I
a
was
major
just talking
shift in the
about.
Kremlin's approach to evading sanctions and undermining the US dollar. And so this just came out November 21st of this year. So we can see that these nations, these BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, etc., they're starting to move to a new system. Again, not trying to replace the dollar, each nation being able to save in gold or Bitcoin or whatever they want and use their own currencies through a Project Embridge type platform. Okay, so now that you understand that, it's not about a new currency, it's about reshaping the global financial system.
And this is where we're going to kind of jump in and talk about what our options are. And, everybody's got to do what they think is best for them. C90 saying, I had to stop asking friends and family, what is wrong with you a long time ago. Yes, there you go. It's funny because you know what? You can preach it and live it, and they still don't get it. And no matter how hard you try, it is what it is. At some point, you got to let people come to things like cryptocurrency in their own time frame, right? And again, so where do we pivot? I do believe cryptocurrency is one of the ways, and living on crypto one of the ways. And we're gonna bring up that clip from Jöel Valenzuela in a minute. But first, I want to bring up Daniel Diaz because he talks about the wealth cycling, which is something we were just mentioning here when I was addressing the comments. Again, I wish he could have been here this morning, but he's not. But I think we can make at least part of the point that you can use multiple things, gold, silver, Bitcoin, crypto, and utilize them in combination in order to put yourself in a position where, even if you think that things are going to be phenomenal when Trump gets into office in 40 days ish, you still need to plan, because you want to know what, this system is fragile. And that's kind of the other point I think gets put out there with this tweet from Trump attacking the BRICS. To me, it almost shows the entire fragility of the economic system, the SWIFT system, the US dollar, maybe even the US economy. I really do believe that we're still headed for some kind of financial crisis. Let's put it that way. So you need to be prepared for that. And we're going to look at a couple of these ways here in a minute. Before I get off on too much of a tangent, FF is saying most countries are moving away from USD. Exactly. And the SWIFT system, even allies. And that's a great point, FF. Yes, even our allies are doing it. You're correct. Whether or not they're part of BRICS is immaterial. But yes, even our allies are de-dollarizing here at this point. All of this is happening after they moved away from the gold standard. And the other point to what FF is saying here, these central banks are buying what? Gold. Why would they be doing that if they thought the US dollar was going to be the thing? Thank you, FF. Appreciate that input very much. Crypto Candy is in the house. Welcome, sir. Appreciate you being here. Yes, that was great, FF. Thank you. All right. So again, options. You should still plan for other options for you here, even if you're living in the US. Now, I know I got people who are outside of the US who are tuning in and that kind of thing, but I'm talking US centric here at this point. To that end, I'm going to let Daniel Diaz talk a little bit about the wealth cycling and how he does it, just to give you this particular option. Because again, I think it's good. It's wise. It's a good way to do it. That is, in my opinion, a bit more on the conservative end of things versus somebody like me who's a DCA hodl, throw it in a cold wallet somewhere, and we'll worry about it in 10 years. So this is a more active approach. So we'll let him go through that real quick.
But gold and silver is money. And what I do is I trade gold and silver into different assets. So I have digital gold and digital silver and physical silver. And all other assets are wealth generating assets, whether it's income like real estate, where you have rental properties, commercial, that's income generating, dividends, annuities. These are all income generating. You want that. You don't want just to trade. You also want income in case you lose your job. You have something to fall back on, not just your investments. Then you have asset generating like stocks and cryptocurrency. I think Bitcoin is the greatest wealth generating asset in the history of mankind. I wealth cycle into other assets. When the election, I sold all my Bitcoin on September 17th because of the rate cuts. And then immediately after the election, I bought into Bitcoin, wrote it up 10K, and then sold it. I'm out of Bitcoin again. I'm waiting to see what happens. My long-term analysis at the...
All right. So he goes into more detail. Again, link to that clip. It's about the whole thing's about 5 minutes long from the retail roundtable that I did. But again, you get the idea. You can utilize whatever. And he mentioned a bunch of things. He talked stocks. He talked real estate. He talked about gold. He talked about silver. He talked about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin in particular. And he uses Bitcoin in particular. He doesn't really, or from what he's told me, he doesn't really cycle into a lot of these other cryptos, which whatever. I got no issue with that. Use Bitcoin, whatever. It's the biggest one. It makes the most sense. It's the one grabbing the most adoption right now. I understand. And then he wealth cycles that, so he just continues to increase his wealth. And then, of course, the diversification into whatever else to help to gain that kind of income as he's talking about. So if for those of us who work a job, you know, you lose job, okay, whatever. Now you still got other income opportunities. What a line. It was a good lineup. And actually Army Piper was also in there. He had to leave at that point of that clip. But yeah, the link to that retail roundtable, it was great. It was like an hour and a half long, and I broke it up into a bunch of clips because there was so much great information that came from that. Yeah, you definitely need to check that out if you have not already. Okay, so the idea of wealth cycling, you should really consider that to whatever end that works for you. Okay, you got to understand your own risk management, etc., etc. Here, I should probably put this up here. Not financial advice, not a financial advisor, old guy, interwebs. And yeah, it is what it is. But I also advocate, and again, link in the description below for an entire playlist I put together with regard to living on crypto. And it started out with an interview with Jöel Valenzuela, who is the guy we're going to see in this clip here in a second, where he's talking in this particular clip about learning to use crypto. I mean, how do you use it? And that is key. I know it sounds so simple and maybe even to the point of like stupid, but most people know how to invest, you know, buy crypto, hopefully take it off whatever exchange they bought it on and put it in maybe a self-custody wallet of some kind. But even that isn't true, as he points out in this particular clip. I mean, a lot of people use these exchanges like banks, and they're not banks. There is no insurance for your crypto. They can lock it up anytime. We've seen how many different tweets out there, if you're on X, about people having their Coinbase like frozen. You can't get your funds off Coinbase. And don't get me wrong, if you're in the US, you know, Coinbase is a great option, especially if you're new. Matter of fact, link in the description. But I look at these centralized exchanges like this. You use a centralized exchange the way you would use a public restroom. You go in, you do your business, whatever you got to do, and you get the hell out. That means you're taking your crypto with you as soon as possible. It's that simple. Okay. All right. And now that I've put that out there and offended every centralized exchange, let me bring up this last clip with Jöel and let him do the talking. He has a way to do that.
Yeah, I think that one thing is interesting is there's a giant gulf, I would say, between in crypto knowledge between people who use it and who just buy tokens on a centralized exchange. And there are a lot of situations where, like, for example, I know like the FTX collapse wiped a lot of people out. A lot of them because they did not have like the technical knowledge to understand how to self-custody or how to stake in actual protocols and things like that. So they just said, oh, I'm going to go like give my money at this bank-like institution that's telling me they're going to give me all this money, not understanding that they're not FDIC insured, they're not, you know, anything, not understanding the house of cards that they're on, and they just get wiped out. And so there's so many people that could be and have been DCAing like very like faithfully and consistently over time and just got wrecked because they didn't have that kind of knowledge. So I definitely think that teaching people to actually use crypto as it is and understand it is a great way of kind of insulating yourself from that. There's also
all right, and he goes on here, and feel free, link in the description, go ahead and check that out. But I think the point is made. You need to learn how to use crypto now. That way you're able to control your own destiny. Again, not your keys, not your coins. And yes, FF, I thought it was an apt analogy. You know, it's like, you know, you don't go hanging out in the public restroom, right? Would you leave your, well, let's not get, I'm not going to get down that road. Anyway, the point is, you need to learn how to use crypto now rather than when you need to be able to use crypto. And the only way you can use it, if again, is you have complete control of it. So link in the description to an entire series that I've done showing you how to do that. I like Dash for that, but I also talk about Litecoin, for example. For those who have been here for a while, you know I use Litecoin, paying for my VPN service, etc. You know, it is what it is. All right, that's basically what I got for today, although we're going to go take a look and see what the poll looks like. Where are we at here? Come on, open up poll. All right, wow, we got a 60-40 split. Basically, again, I asked, do you believe that that Trump threatening 100% tariffs on BRICS is effective? 60% said no, 40% said yes. So I don't know. I'm on the no side. I didn't vote, but you guys did, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Also helps me working on the whole polling there. So thank you. Appreciate that. I want to be able to use that starting on Friday night's Crypto on the Rocks. But overall, you guys are on and with me about that. No, Trump is wrong in that regard. Wrong. Automatic Beast, thanks, man. You're always on top of that. I appreciate that. I appreciate you saying that. All right, just to give you an idea what's going on the rest of this week for me is tomorrow night, 7 p.m., Crypto on the Rocks. Far as I know, most of the usuals are going to be there. So Daniel Diaz should be there. Crypto Bedels should be there. Trade Intuition. And hopefully some others like 100 Air will be jumping in. I'm hoping. So we'll see how that goes. But tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern time, make sure that you are there. Yes. Crypto Candy. Yes. Thank you. Crypto Candy's always in the chat. Hopefully it'll come on live at some point. But yeah, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. And yes, that's pretty much it for the rest of this week. And then Monday morning, 10 a.m., Trade Intuition and I live talking crypto market Monday stuff. We'll be looking at the US debt. We'll be looking at the fear and greed index. Trade Intuition will be looking at the Bitcoin chart. And I'll have some other worthy news items to go along with everything. I thank everybody for being here all the time. I'm a bold guy. Well, I appreciate that, I suppose. Thank you. Appreciate that. I'm gonna wrap it up. I appreciate everybody being here. Thank you for making the chat active. Thank you for voting in the poll. And hopefully I'll see you all tomorrow night. Crypto on the Rocks, 7 p.m. Eastern. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.